Hello, this is Gary Seal with Trucon Sales Consulting. Welcome to the second group of the Psychological Sales Triggers video package. This is points number 4, 5, and 6, and I think you'll find it very beneficial as we work through these triggers to help you understand how you can interact with a customer and help move your sale closer to a close. Point number 4 is the rule of social validation or social pressure. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The greatest difficulty is that men do not think of themselves enough. They do not think of what they are sacrificing when they follow the herd." I think one of the things that you can do is reflect back on the styles that have happened over the last 40 or 50 years. And it's funny how it takes our circle. In the 50s, very short hair, a little bit left on the top, and a straightforward demeanor, this appearance of being clean cut, on the sides at least, and then maybe a little stubble. The only thing that's different between now and then is the facial hair. However, as we got into the 60s, early 70s, we would not be caught dead showing our ears. Most of the guys had some sort of length of hair. The clothes were different, the bell bottoms, the blue jeans, the mini skirts, the long hair, things of that nature evolved again back into the 80s, into the fluffy look again, the shoulder pads and things of that nature. Things just change and people will follow the lead. So I think most of us guys followed the Beatles in some sort or the other. Now, from the standpoint of what you're doing in sales standpoint is that you want to be able to articulate the trends that are going on in your industry and let people know what's happening, and if they don't follow that trend, help them understand that they'll be behind the bell curve, so to speak. For an industrial product or perhaps software, you might be very alert to the fact that things have changed to artificial intelligence, for example, and that if they don't have that, they might be missing some sales opportunities, or perhaps software that recognizes who's on your website and can relay that information immediately back to a sales team member so they can engage. Those things are going to put some little social pressure aspect back on that person to want to keep up and be ahead of the bell curve instead of behind it. Now, point number 5 is the rule of scarcity, taking immediate action. Jim Rohn said, "Without a sense of urgency, desire loses its value." Now, I would caution you to be very careful in this aspect of scarcity because in some respects, it's very, very true. I live in the greater Austin, Texas area, and pressure on housing continues to exist because of the move-ins and the strong economic environment that is in force right now and has been for the last 10, 12, 15 years, ever since we got through the recession and things got back to quote-unquote normal. Then housing pressure has continued to escalate. I will tell you that my house that I bought 33 years ago is worth 3 times now what I gave for it. And so that just gives you a little example. So from that standpoint, you might be able to look at a client in the eye and literally tell them, if you don't buy now, it's going up. If you don't buy now, it will not be available. Well, how does that work in an industrial product when there seems to be an abundance? You need to be keenly aware of the pressures and the manufacturing constraints. For example, I used to sell ionization equipment, which had some very specific circuit boards included, and if there was a component or some aspect of that board that could not be obtained, then there was a delay in the manufacturing and things were built in batches. So as you are aware of what your manufacturing capacity is, or perhaps software writing capacity, and letting people know that things won't be available for a period of time, or perhaps there's a limited amount, then that helps people understand that there is scarcity and they need to move forward with it. Otherwise, don't use that tool. Now, here's the one that we can all relate to. Point number 6, the rule of verbal packaging, the leverage of language. Everything you say has an impact. Jim Rohn said, real persuasion comes from putting more of you into words loaded with emotion. They have a powerful effect. So there are things that you can do as you engage with the customer, and you probably all experience the flat, monotone, not excited description of a product, and you wonder if the salesperson even believed in what they were selling. You should not be in that category. Use colorful adjectives, and adverbs to help describe your product. Use 3 modifiers directed at one noun to really bring out the vividness and the capabilities of your product. And then direct your descriptions to address the known concerns of the prospect. Don't auto dump on somebody with everything that you know about your product. I would also tell you, you really need to stay engaged with that product. Read their facial expressions, read their body language. Make sure they're giving you some sort of feedback as you engage with them in the conversation. Literally ask questions if they agree or understand without insulting their intelligence about what you're describing. And then I would encourage you, as you get more comfortable with your product and your service, to systematically describe whatever you're selling, because keep in mind, you are and should be a subject matter expert in your particular area. If your prospect is not, and you're rushing through technical language or you're describing things that they haven't experienced before, you're going to lose them very quickly. And so from that standpoint, you just don't want to be there. Now here's an extra little bit for you. Statistical research has proven that a salesperson has a higher probability of closing if they do these 3 points. State an overt benefit. State it specifically, obviously, directly, and tell them what's in it for them, the customer. Number 2, give them a real reason to believe. Why should the customer believe you will deliver on the promise that you made about your product? And then number 3, have a dramatic difference. How revolutionary and new to the world is your benefit or reason to believe? You have to differentiate yourself, and you have to do that colorfully, vividly, and with emotion. So there are your 3 points for this second phase of persuasion power or psychological sales triggers. I would urge you to practice those, put them in place, and see how your customer reacts. I'm confident you'll be very pleased.